Now for our feature story of the day, Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund reports owning 455 million plus worth of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF in their newest SEC filing. I'm going to break this down for you. Also, as you can see in this headline, Nayib Bukele and Michael Saylor, Stacey Herbert, and Max Keiser just met at the Bitcoin office over in El Salvador. And I'm also going to give you the latest from Max Keiser, who recently tweeted, Max and Stacey strike again. The Mideast dam of demand has burst. $1 trillion buy orders on tap. I repeat, $1 trillion buy orders on tap. God candle incoming. $2.2 million biddy in play. Also, as you can see here, David Bailey, CEO of Bitcoin Magazine, wrote, Abu Dhabi has gone in much bigger than today's filing, meaning they own a lot more Bitcoin than they're even announcing. There is a couple of other GCC members that are making moves too. Was hoping this would be announced at the Bitcoin MENA conference, but they were not ready. And remember when we told you there's insiders, we have information, big buys are happening in the Middle East, that oil money is going right into the biddy. We weren't telling any lies. We have the insights, and we're just sharing what we know. Max also tweeted here, Bitcoin country requires fighting on two fronts. Number one, building a strategic reserve to prepare for for the self-destruction of the fiat money entrenched monopolists like the US dollar pushing central banking cartels and the global scammers like the IMF, World Bank, and USAID. Number two, to prevent shitcoinery and shitcoiners from entering the country by any means necessary. And El Salvador is the most successful country fighting this two-front world war. Bitcoin, and it looks like wannabe countries like Argentina and the U.S. are losing. Fact, the world is heading to a Bitcoin standard. No fiat money, central bank or globalist shit show like the IMF survives. Fuck the IMF. The Bitcoin office established the battle plan for El Salvador to win the global hash war in 2022, and the plan is working brilliantly. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. Quoting Napoleon once again, never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. Max also announced here the president has instructed his protocol team to clear his calendar for next year's Max and Stacey Invitational. And my understanding is tickets will go on sale again in May, and they'll probably sell out within 10 minutes. So make sure you're on the waiting list if you're not already. It's maxandstaceyinvitational.com. And if you don't know, I attended their event this year, about a month ago. It was February 10th and the 11th, and it was the greatest event I've ever been to for Bitcoiners. And you guys already know, I talk about it all the time, but I love Max and Stacey and what they're doing in Bitcoin country, and I would not miss their event. If you get the opportunity to go, take advantage of it. And he even announces here, I just bought a sponsorship for Strategy as my personal guest. So what does that mean? Michael Saylor and Nayib Bukele are heading to the Max and Stacey Invitational 2026 in January. So I'm pretty stoked for that. I've never had the privilege of meeting Saylor or Bukele, and they're both on my bucket list. I mean, that would be a dream come true. So shout out Max and Stacey doing big things there in Bitcoin country. Now, also breaking news, Bhutan now owns $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's pretty big considering how small of a country they are. Nation states are here, and this is just who is willing to admit what they own at this current time. But let's dive deeper into the UAE and the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund accumulating hundreds of millions of dollars worth of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, according to the new filings with the U.S. SEC. So it is official. Earlier, someone asked, how are you vetting this news that is actually true? I mean, it's obvious. It's a done deal. They announced they stockpile $455 million worth of the asset management giant iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, which we know as IBIT. The UAE Wealth Fund was established all the way back in 1976 to promote economic stability and prosperity for the nation. Then in December, Reuters reported that the fund became the world's top wealth fund spender, passing even Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And since the launch of January of 2024, IBIT became the largest ETF by market cap based on flagship digital asset. And talking about the biddy. And in November, it was found that IBIT surpassed its gold counterpart in terms of the net assets, despite BlackRock's gold ETF launching nearly 2 decades earlier. To put that into perspective, the Bitcoin volume eclipsed that of gold with the ETF for the BTC And it only took 1 year for Bitcoin to eclipse what took 2 decades for the yellow precious metal. Is it really that precious? I don't even know. And according to the recent Bloomberg report, BlackRock secured the commercial license to operate in Abu Dhabi just last year and said it did so to work and move more closely, working with the sovereign wealth fund, wealth managers, and investment vehicles in the area. And as stated by Charles Hatami, head of the Middle East for the BlackRock, to Bloomberg, Abu Dhabi has rapidly transformed into a global financial center. Its strategic location, proactive government policies, and commitment to the sustainable growth make it an ideal location for the capital markets. Preach. And as you know, these gangsters, I mean that in a gentle way. Obviously, they're not criminal gangsters, but just Bitcoin gangsters. If you're to ask me, these are some of the biggest proponents for Bitcoin, leading the world in Bitcoin adoption. They just met up. Nayib Bukele, Saylor, Max Keiser, Stacey Herbert. Yeah, the meeting of Bukele and Saylor was confirmed by the country's national Bitcoin office. They shared all the photos. However, the details of their conversation are top secret, but we know it's about supporting the Bitcoin and supporting Bitcoin country. Bukele and Saylor posted photos of their meeting on social media, with Saylor mentioning they discussed how El Salvador could help speed up the global Bitcoin adoption. I mean, there you have it. I mean, this man right here on the left, MicroStrategy, has close to 500,000 of the biddy, and the man on the right, obviously President Bukele, I believe their Bitcoin reserves are now surpassed 6,000 BTC, which is over like $500 million worth of the Bitcoin. Let's get into the more precise numbers. El Salvador added one more Bitcoin to his reserves, bringing its total to 6,077 BTC, worth 590 million. In addition, MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy B, purchased 7,633 Bitcoin, bringing its total to 478,740 of the biddy, worth over $46 billion. In 2021, El Salvador was the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender. But as you know, there's been a lot going on with the IMF. Bukele recently accepted a $1.4 billion deal, and then he started doubling down on his Bitcoin purchases. But it is voluntary if you do want to accept Bitcoin in Bitcoin country, just FYI. And I know from firsthand experience because I spent a week there and I was using Bitcoin when I was paying for my pupusas. And some of the vendors accept it, some of the vendors don't. But Bukele never forced people to only accept Bitcoin. You always had the option, US dollar, which is a currency, or Bitcoin, which is a currency. And then, of course, you have Tether USDT, which is considered it's considered a registered security. Then all the other altcoins and stable coins are considered unregistered securities and are illegal to promote in Bitcoin country. And if you don't know, now you know. The meeting may have covered topics like Bitcoin adoption, regulatory changes, investment opportunities, also discussing El Salvador's Bitcoin strategy amid the IMF conditions and the future of crypto payments in the country. I mean, those are the OGs. And of course, Max is calling for 2.2 million in play. He's been telling us this God candle incoming, $1 trillion buy orders on tap. Let that sink in, because all that the UAE just announced was roughly a $500 million buy. Could you imagine $1 trillion buy orders on tap? That means income and family. 2.2 million in play. Let me know if you agree, disagree with the high priest of Bitcoin, and what are your thoughts? Holla at your boy, and I'm going to read your comments out loud.